For our lesson today, we're going to learn how to draw landscapes. So to start, we'll be learning two basic things that go in a landscape, two basic rules for showing distance in a picture and showing depth in a picture. So one of the major rules in a landscape picture is that objects that are farther away are going to be more in the middle or higher up on the picture. Objects that are closer are going to be a little lower on the picture. So using this calendar image as an example, these trees that are farther in the distance, they're higher up from the bottom of the paper. These trees that are closer to us are starting a little bit lower on the paper in the image. Another rule, things that are closer to us are going to be larger. So specifically talking about these trees are much bigger than these trees in the background. I'm assuming that these trees and these trees in real life would be about the same size. But since we're looking at a photograph, we're looking at trees in the distance and comparing them to trees that are closer. These trees appear smaller than the trees in front. Another example of that would be these rocks or these snow-capped rocks that are in this river. This one, compared to the one back here, is a lot bigger than the one in the distance. So the way we're going to draw that idea on paper, I'm not asking us to copy this picture. I was just using this as an example. But we're going to learn how to draw some evergreen trees, kind of some easy ways to do that. And we're also going to draw them kind of in a perspective where it looks like there's smaller trees in the distance that are farther up on the paper, so farther up from the bottom, bigger trees that are touching the bottom of the paper and the top of the paper. So I'm going to start there to instruct how to make the evergreen tree. So I'm going to start with the trunk of the tree. So on evergreen trees, the bottom is usually a little more thick than the top. They get a little more skinny as they go. Kind of looks like a chopstick or like a magic wand. And then you can kind of draw some curving lines coming off of your trunk. And I'm making them bigger as they go down. But I don't want them to be getting a little too wide. I just kind of want it to be looking kind of natural. So it's not going to be very thick tree. It's going to be a little bit more skinny because I want to have enough space over here to draw the rest of the things. So the tree that's closest to us will be starting from the bottom, growing all the way to the top of the paper. And it's going to be the largest tree in the picture. I'm using a black crayon on white paper for today's lesson, since we're only learning about how to draw trees, two, how to have the largest objects be objects in the front, smaller objects be objects in the middle, and then the third concept was how distance is seen as things in the front are toward the bottom of the paper, things in the back are in the middle. I'm only focusing on those things. I'm not focusing on adding any color today. The projects after this one, we will need items to color with. So get a box of crayons and some paper, like a sketchbook, get some colored pencils, anything that you want to use that will help you color is fine. I usually like crayons because they come in at least 24 colors, and you don't have to sharpen them. They just can use them as they are. So the big tree, I just finished it, goes from the top of the paper to the bottom. I'm going to draw one next to it that is going to look like it's a little bit further away from us. So I'm going to start the trunk higher up on the paper. What I mean is I'm not going at the bottom of the paper, I'm starting up a little bit higher. And I'm going to make the trunk go a little shorter than this. So I'm not going to go all the way up here. I'm going to stop right about there. Since this tree is going to be farther away, it needs to be a little bit smaller too. So I made my trunk a little bit thick. One way I can balance that out is by making this one a little bigger, since I can't erase my crayon. And then I'm going to add the other tree details like I just did. So these little curving lines to show the branches of this evergreen tree. I haven't drawn a horizon line yet. That's going to be my last step. I want to put my trees on here first. So now it looks like we have one tree that's a little more in front than this one. I'm going to make a small tree that's going to be in the background. So if we're remembering our reference picture, these trees back here, they're going to be very small compared to the ones that were in front. So I'm going to pick a spot about in the middle of the paper. And I don't want this little tree to be alone, so I'm actually going to draw two of them. And then add the lines for the branches, some curving lines coming down from the tree. So now it looks like there's a pair of trees in the distance away from these ones. These ones would be closest to us. If we were walking in the forest, we'd approach these two trees first, and then eventually we'd walk to these two trees. At this point, I can probably add a horizon. So the horizon is the line going across the paper that divides the sky and the earth. So it's dividing the paper into the sky and the earth. It doesn't have to be a straight line. There could be hills. Since I'm just using a black crayon, I can intersect my line between these things. That's not really a big deal. If I really want to cover it up, I can. And then if I were to add more trees, I'd have to think about what size they should be. So if I want to add another tree over here, if I want it to be very close to us, I would go from the very top of my paper. I'm making this a little bit too big. That's okay. So this tree is going from the very top to the very bottom. This tree would be the closest to us. Since this one doesn't really reach the top or the bottom, there's a little bit of a gap. So then to add my tree details, I'd want to make these branches. Since this tree is closest to us, this tree is going to be the biggest. These branches are going to need to be longer than these ones because this tree is bigger than this tree. And I'm making my branches go all the way to the bottom of the page and all the way from the top. And I'll do the same thing over here. I have a folder underneath here that I don't care if I get marker or crayon on. So if you're drawing this at home and you don't want to get anything on your table or whatever you're drawing on, put another paper or something underneath it you don't care about, because it's easier to do this with something underneath to protect your table, because then you don't have to be so controlled about the marks you're making on this side. So at this point, I'm done with my drawing. Other details I could add if I want to, I could color in the sky. I like having the white here. It kind of looks like snow, and it snowed today. Today's December 1st. I'm filming this. So if I color in the sky, it'll add a little bit more interest to the picture, make it a little more interesting. I'm going to color in the trunk. So just to review what I just showed you, we learned how to draw trees. Just a trunk, a little bit wider on the bottom, give it some support, and then lines curving down. We learned that the trees, any objects, actually, not just trees, any objects that are closest to us will start on the bottom of the paper because that gives the illusion that those things are closer to us. Anything that's farther from us will be on the middle of the paper or higher up on the paper. So from the bottom, higher up. Things farther away are going to be higher up. Things that are closest to us will be larger. Things that are farther from us will be smaller. Even if these are all the same fully grown trees, these still look like they are much farther away. If you're in the meeting right now and you're finished with your picture, I'm going to write down your name and give you the credit already. So you don't have to do anything to turn in your paper besides hold up your drawing, and I will check to see that you completed your work. If you are completing this assignment outside of our meeting time, I need you to take a picture of your drawing and submit it to Google Classroom. So the way you're going to do that is go to the assignment, view assignment. Don't click turn in. First, you need to click on the drawing. The instructions are go to insert, which is right here, image, and then click on camera. That opens up your computer camera. You can take a picture of your drawing, make sure that you can see all of the details. If you're using a pencil, you'll probably need to really adjust how close you're holding it to make sure that you can see the details on here, because sometimes it's difficult if you're using a pencil. Take a picture with this camera button and then insert the picture. Google automatically saves it for you. It says save to drive. So now all you have to do is go back to this page and click turn in.